Hey guys, welcome back to Marvelous Wonder for another episode of Joseph Smith's Prophecies Fulfilled. Was Joseph Smith really a martyr, or did he go out in a shootout, guns blazing, unwilling to surrender? Joseph Smith died at the hands of a mob in the Carthage jail on June 27th, 1844. He was only 38 years old. His brother Hiram was also killed, while the others that were with them, John Taylor and Willard Richards, survived. As the mob rushed the jail with little resistance from the guards, Joseph used a gun that had been smuggled into the jail to shoot at the mob, hitting at least one person in the arm who died later. Some have said that in order to qualify as a martyr, you have to willingly give your life, and that Joseph Smith's apparent resistance here shows that this was not the case for him. And by using the term shootout, I wonder if the intention is to paint a mental picture of a fugitive rebel against law enforcement, or maybe something like Scarface, or even a tragic standoff like Ruby Ridge, rather than a martyr's death. However, as a prophet and seer, Joseph knew of his death long before it happened. And this is the aspect of his death that I want to talk about today. Joseph's attitude surrounding and leading up to his martyrdom was completely at odds with the confidence and security that he showed earlier in his ministry in the face of intense persecution and many narrow escapes from death. He seemed to know when he would be protected and when he would finally be required to give up his life. As early as 1831, he prophesied of his own eventual death. Mary Lightner records, "One day after asking about the Golden Bible, he told me if I lived 30 years after his death, I would see and read things to prove the book true. I said, 'Are you going to die?' He answered, 'I must seal my testimony with my blood. The testimony is of no force until the testator is dead.'" To a group in Kirtland in January 1838, he said, "One thing, brethren, is certain. I shall see you again, let what will happen. For I have a promise of life 5 years, and they cannot kill me until that time is expired." He would be killed roughly 6.5 years from that statement. Later in 1839, while in Liberty Jail, according to Wilford Woodruff's journal, Elder Lyman White said that Joseph told him that he would not live to see 40 years, but Lyman was not to reveal it until Joseph was dead. He would be murdered at 38 years old. Even as late as 1843, he knew his time was not yet. He said on January 22nd, 1843, "I shall not be sacrificed until my time comes. Then I shall be offered freely. I have no enemies but for the truth's sake." George Q. Cannon says that the prophet recorded this prophecy concerning his own fate in his journal, showing thereby that he recognized its weight and foresaw its fulfillment. This doesn't appear to have been a simple feeling that his luck would eventually run out, but that he had received a promise of protection until his work was finished. On one occasion, at the funeral of Ephraim Marks, Joseph said, "Some suppose that brother Joseph could not die, but this is a mistake. It is true there have been times when I have had the promise of my life to accomplish such and such things, but having now accomplished those things, I have not at present any lease of my life. I am as liable to die as other men." He even knew in advance of specific details that would accompany the event. In May 1843, he prophesied to Willard Richards, "The time will come that the balls will fly around you like hail, and you shall see your friends fall on the right and on the left, but there shall not be a hole in your garment." This was literally fulfilled, as Willard Richards was not struck by any of the balls that were shot in that room that day, aside from one that struck the tip of the lower part of his left ear. His clothes had no holes. On another occasion in April 1842, Joseph visited a Relief Society meeting and shared that his time was short. Eliza R. Snow records that he said that he did not know as he should have many opportunities of teaching them, as they were going to be left to themselves. They would not long have him to instruct them, that the church would not have his instruction long, and the world would not be troubled with him a great while, and would not have his teachings. Bathsheba W. Smith said, "Joseph Smith attended one of our Relief Society meetings in the lodge room. He opened the meeting by prayer. His voice trembled very much, after which he addressed us and said, "According to my prayer, I will not be with you long to teach and instruct you, and the world will not be troubled with me much longer." In 1844, the actual event was approaching, and Joseph knew it. In a meeting in March of 1844, Wilford Woodruff remembers Joseph saying, "I have desired to see this temple built, but I shall never live to see it completed. But you will." In May 1844, John Scott asked, "Brother Joseph, are you going to be slain?" And part of his answer was, "They say they will kill me, and I know that they will." At this time, the saints had settled Nauvoo. They were building a temple there, and Joseph was serving as the mayor. Their relative prosperity as a people came after years of intense persecution in Ohio and Missouri. See, the saints were working to build up Zion wherever they went, and this never really sat well with locals. And what's more, the doctrines they taught and practiced were new and different, and not always welcomed. In Nauvoo, William Law published libelous things in a newspaper called the Expositor that threatened to again disturb the peace that the saints had finally found, prompting Joseph and the city council to take action to destroy the printing press. A questionable move, given the protected right of freedom of speech, but the governor of Illinois, while disagreeing with the decision, could at least see that it was done in good faith to remove a nuisance from the community. The people of Illinois, though, were not happy, and soon Nauvoo was threatened with destruction by a mob of 300 men. Joseph and Hiram, having already been acquitted by the municipal court, prepared the Nauvoo militia to defend the city, wrote to Governor Ford asking for protection for their people, and then crossed the river to protect their lives. On June 23, 1844, Emma Smith, Reynolds Cahoon, Lorenzo D. Wasson, and Hiram Kimball sent a letter to Joseph, stating that they wanted him to come back to Nauvoo. Some accused him of cowardice for leaving the city while it was under threat of destruction. Joseph asked Hiram what he thought they should do, and Hiram said they should return and, quote, "see the thing out." They decided to return and turn themselves in so that a court outside of Nauvoo could hear their case. But Joseph knew it would not end well for him. His response to Hiram was, "If you go back, I will go with you, but we shall be butchered." He was now including Hiram in this prophecy. Willard Richards records, about 4 p.m., Joseph, Hiram, the doctor, and others started back. While walking towards the river, Joseph fell behind with Orrin P. Rockwell. The others shouted to come on. Joseph replied, "It is of no use to hurry, for we are going back to be slaughtered." On June 24th, 1844, Joseph was on his way from Nauvoo to Carthage when he said what's possibly his most famous quote from this event. "I am going like a lamb to the slaughter, but I am calm as a summer's morning. I have a conscience void of offense towards God and towards all men. I shall die innocent, and it shall yet be said of me, he was murdered in cold blood." He knew his time had come, and this was it. On his way past his farm to Carthage, Joseph's gaze lingered, and he said, "If some of you had such a farm, and knew you would not see it any more, you would want to take a good look at it for the last time." In a final attempt to help the prophet avoid death on June 27, 1844, while in Carthage jail, Willard Richards offered to die in Joseph's place if he were sentenced to hang. And Joseph responded simply, "You cannot." Joseph had known for years that the time would come for him to seal his testimony with his blood. No one else could do it for him. The persecution that had followed him and the saints for years, because of their beliefs and practices, was about to culminate in his and Hiram's death. The Lord had protected him from mobs and violence and death many times in the past, in some instances allowing him to simply pass from in the midst of those who wanted to kill him. But this time was different. The work he was called to do was finished, and the way was set up for it to continue on after him. Perhaps a shot or two in defense of his friends was not a disqualifying action for martyrdom. He had known this event would mean his death, and yet he had willingly placed himself there. Joseph Smith was a true prophet of God, and he was blessed with divine gifts of prophecy and seership. I hope this episode has helped illuminate that for you a little bit in relation to his martyrdom. Thanks for listening today.